Winning 2 World Cups is a big deal, but forget Pelé. For me, he will always be greater than Messi, you know? But like Pelé is on another level, man. Let's go. More Lúcio de Papo on the air. Since we can't stand talking about Neymar anymore, today we're going to talk about Pelé and Messi. Let's go.
Just so we don't forget, ask everyone to subscribe and leave that thing you really like.
I'm too old to ask for likes, damn it.
What would be the significance of a second World Cup title for Lionel Messi compared to the 3 World Cup titles won by Pelé?
I don't really see this Messi-Pelé comparison. Being a World Cup champion always carries a huge weight, just being a World Cup champion. Being a 2-time World Cup champion as a main player carries immense weight. But, you know, Pelé is on another level, man. Pelé, for me, I wouldn't even start this conversation, okay? Pelé is on another level. So, for him to win 2, you have to win your first at 17 years old, being the main player, scoring amazing goals. Then we can start thinking about that comparison.
How does Messi's longevity, 39 years old in 2026, influence the argument that he is the greatest of all time in terms of consistency?
His consistency is huge, there's no doubt about that. The guy has been performing for years now. Yeah, and I think that in a way this sets him apart from some others. Yeah, we talk a lot about the individual aspect, right? Individual competition, being the best in the world. Nowadays, people talk very little about the collective. But since that's the topic, it sets him apart, for example, from Ronaldinho Gaucho. Yeah, that longevity. Ronaldinho Gaucho was, from what I saw, maybe those 4 years of his, I really split it between 2002 and 2006, right? Which is the World Cup. He had 4 spectacular years starting in 2002. He gets to the World Cup to play 7 games and be crowned like at a stratospheric level. And then it doesn't work out. For us to understand the weight of a World Cup, people really forget what happened with Ronaldinho Gaucho. Pelé, I always say it's heresy, but I've read about it, you know? Those 7 games really define who Ronaldinho Gaucho is. It's crazy when you think about it. Yeah, so you can't underestimate it. People have been saying for a while, spreading the idea that the Champions League has become something huge. Some fans, I love it too, but nothing compares to the World Cup. And Lionel Messi comes to prove to us that winning the World Cup takes you to another level. So winning a World Cup is huge. I mean, winning 2 World Cups is huge, but forget about Pelé.
Pelé holds one of the historic records for talent and precocity. He won his first World Cup at 17 years old, as you mentioned. Messi winning a title at 39 years old would have more or less symbolic value than the achievements of our king.
Again, right, man, I think these things can coexist, right? Pelé being great winning at 17, Messi being great winning at 39. Human beings really have this thing. I think it's cool, I don't think it's bad. Our essence as humans is to live with this, right? Emilio Marlene, right? People have been like this since the world began. And I think it's awesome, you know? Let it be this way, man. It's part of who we are. This is what fuels the bar talk. Nowadays, the bar is a virtual bar. It also fuels the fights and all that. Okay, cool, it's part of the game. But things can coexist. Winning at 17 can be huge, and winning at 39 can be huge too.
What criteria, Lúcio, do you think? Titles or even cultural impact? What do you consider most crucial to decide who the king of football is?
I think all of that, man. It's a combination of everything, statistics, but the numbers have to be there. They can't just be thrown around. I always say that numbers, you can torture numbers into saying anything you want. Manipulated statistics say whatever you want them to say. So you have to put the statistics into context, right? Yeah, numbers say a lot of things, but they have to be part of a coherent framework, you know. The numbers, from both sides say a lot, but you can't have a distortion or an erasure of the past, you know? Wanting to belittle the past, that's the worst thing. We can still get into that.
Yes. And Pelé stopped the war, right? For example. Yeah, I think that
Pelé, among other icons, it's cool for us to get into this, like Messi is huge, etc. I think in terms of being a symbol, Pelé and Maradona are a bit bigger for what they represent, right? Including Maradona in Argentina itself. Pelé, not just because he stopped a war, that's a small thing, it's symbolic, but Pelé has this thing about what he represented, like as a shout against prejudice, against racism. Yeah, Pelé is he won't? Yeah, he is. He gave a lot of Brazilians, black people, pride, Yeah, the pride, of showing it. Yeah, it's a lot of things. So Pele has that meaning too. Even though sometimes he did speak out too. Pele, and Edson. Pele did the best thing in his life, which was to separate Pele and Edson. He separated Pele and Edson. Edson, he has some points, I made a documentary, Memorias do Sumo, that really showed at some moments a kind of ambiguous position he had regarding the dictatorship, etc. But that doesn't take away his immense value. Pelé, at some point, speaks out and strongly against racism, against prejudice, and just his presence was very relevant as a symbol. I think Pelé's greatest significance was in that sense. From a racist country, a country full of prejudice, Pelé symbolized he was king, the greatest of all, and he's black, So he has immense significance. Maradona, he also has immense significance because Maradona, he represented rebellion and he has something very symbolic. We're talking about Maradona, who 40 years ago represented Argentina's revenge against England, right? An Argentina that had been humiliated in the Falklands War 4 years earlier. And that guy goes onto the field against that England and scores a goal, the greatest goal in history, and scores a goal with his hand. I mean, the revenge, like it was for a country that had been humiliated 4 years earlier. Yeah, Maradona gives Argentinians like a feeling of like revenge, of us getting revenge. So Maradona also has great symbolic significance, just like Pelé. Messi is so talented on the field and with the ball that while he may lack the symbolism of the other two, he's still a giant in soccer.
Well, since you mentioned Maradona, has Messi already surpassed Maradona?
Yeah, that's very subjective. It's a question that's asked in Argentine bars, right? It's very subjective. In my opinion, no. Maradona, for everything he represents, for his genius, but also for what Maradona symbolizes. Yeah, and what Maradona did in '86, especially in what they call the greatest match of all time, man, what he did was huge. Yeah, and Maradona carried an entire nation with that feeling of revenge, That victory is possible. They were crushed by an imperialist power that, massacred them in a war, a stupidly imposed war that the Argentine dictatorship put them in. But Maradona represented that revenge, right, man? So he's huge, man. He goes way beyond soccer with all his contradictions, etc. Besides being a soccer genius, he has that symbolism. For me, he will always be greater than Messi, Yeah, and also on the soccer field, Maradona has something really funny, right? Because he's almost like the father of the nation, right? In Argentina, they discuss this issue of myths a lot, right? Unlike us, they have no trouble creating their own myths, etc. Argentinians, they discuss who is the great Argentine myth. And they have a huge wealth in that, right? Gardel, Evita, Maradona, Perón. I mean, they choose. And Maradona is one of those national myths. Argentinians are so funny in that sense that anyone who knows them will know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, a lot of things in Argentina are measured by the Maradona standard. So, for example, when you watch a movie, they'll say this movie is Maradona-esque. Yeah, it represents the spirit, Yeah, just so you can see the scale of it. You take anything, a play, a book. Maradona is a standard. And I'm not joking. Anyone who goes to Argentina can talk and they'll see this. It's impressive how Maradona is a standard for things for them.
If we don't take national teams into account, just club performance, are Messi and Pelé tied?
And then I think something interesting comes in. Because there's a group, not with immense respect, but that really lives in this world of statistics, of the internet. And it's a generation that has a lot of respect for the past, Because who did Pelé face? Man, he faced the opponents of his time. And like, I didn't live through that either, but I'm a little interested and curious. And when you look, the games were really rough. Because players today are much more protected, right? Back then, it was real rough with actual punches that Pelé faced. There weren't even cards yet at a certain point in his career. It was really tough. So don't underestimate what this guy did just because of the opponents at that time. And Pelé, people, this erasure, this attempt to erase him, it's so strong. Pelé faced Benfica at their peak, right there. Milan at their peak, right there. And he would go there and win, you know? So yeah, this is done a lot of times. Because the opponents, it's messed up. Deep down, this brings a huge amount of racism, you know? This erasure of Pelé. And speaking of erasure, I can't help but mention, just to wrap up, yeah, when we talk about Pelé, Messi, Maradona, what really stands out to me, and it's nice to have the chance to say this, is the erasure that happens to Garrincha. Garrincha he's permanently forgotten, you know? It really impresses me how Garrincha is the guy who's forgotten in these discussions, in these lists, right? Why is Garrincha forgotten? There's a lot behind that. Garrincha was a genius. Garrincha did what maybe only Maradona did in '86, which is to win a World Cup on his own, so to speak. He did that in '62. Garrincha was something different. So how much prejudice, right? The way Garrincha is erased says a lot about us, about our society, because it reproduces the prejudices of society. In order to reach idol status, you have to fit into certain rules. And Garrincha didn't fit in. Garrincha was the crooked angel, right? And sometimes this label of his as the crooked angel, as the rebel, the guy who didn't follow tactics, that's not true. Garrincha was an extremely tactical guy. If you look at his plays, he's dribbling toward the end line and then passing back to whoever is coming up. That shows profound intelligence. So like, yeah, you can't talk about the best players and be complicit with this erasure of Garrincha that's happening. Damn, we debate football, we talk about idols, and we don't talk about Neymar, man. Damn, that's a good thing.